ladies and gentlemen, to Anonymous Contributors Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, we are closing out Anonymous Contributors Month with a zombie film from 1985 by legendary horror filmmaker George A. Romero. This is the final part in his zombie trilogy. Shockingly, I've never had a chance to watch it. That's why I can cover it for the series. The movie is Day of the Dead. Now, I've seen Night of the Living Dead, and I loved it. I've seen Dawn of the Dead, and I still believe that's one of the best zombie films ever made. Not counting zombie comedies. I got a bit of a softer spot for those. But I've never gotten to see Day of the Dead. So I don't know if this is going to continue the, I'm not sure if this is going to continue the upswing in quality from Night of to Dawn of, but it might. I don't know. Frankly, the only way I'm going to find out is if I shut up and I push play. And I understand I usually like to try to pad out my opening a little bit more. But guys, I really want to watch this one. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Day of the Dead. Okay. That is officially one of the most disgusting zombies I've ever seen in any film ever. That looked really fucking cool, man. Wow. Well, guys, I would like to say this. It is a good thing that I am watching a zombie movie, because that means that most of this cast is guaranteed to be dead by the time that the credits roll. And really, I want most of them to die in bloody, gruesome, horrific deaths. There's really not a lot of likable characters so far, guys. Okay, there is something about a pulsating brain, or rather a pulsating exposed brain with no head surrounding it, attached to a zombie body, that is just a little bit nauseating. Really cool, but fucking nauseating, man. Okay. I'd like to say this right now. This guy's accent is starting to get on my nerves. Perhaps maybe because it sounds so fake. I mean, this literally sounds like a stereo fucking typically fake bullshit Jamaican accent. And it's starting to grate on me. I never thought I'd be able to say that about a fucking accent, but it's just starting to get to me, I think. Okay, I understand the guy was in absolute hysterics, but I don't think that clocking him on the back of the head with a large rock was the way to fucking do it. Well, at least she thinks she can stem the zombification by cutting off his arm. That's kind of sort of right, but then again, considering how fast your blood flows, it's probably too fucking late. Just saying, I'm just trying to work logic into a movie that may or may not believe in it. I'm not totally certain at this point. Aw, dude, they just fucking killed off my favorite character in the movie. The only one I actually found likable. As warped and fucked up as he was, I really liked him. God damn it, that fucking sucks, man. You know, guys, no matter how many times I see a zombie get its head chopped off with a fucking shovel, it never gets dull. That is seriously like the coolest goddamn... Oh, wow, and its eyes are still moving, too. That makes it even fucking cooler, man. Let me see if I understand this. We have a commanding officer who is in a combat situation. Instead of grabbing his guns and loading them before going back out into the fucking fray, he tries to load them under fucking fire by a zombie shooting at him. Okay, please just die. I understand now you're crawling, you're bleeding. I want you to fucking die. I just want Bub to walk up and put a bullet right between your fucking eyes. I hate you that much. Yeah, guys, I am not liking a lot of these characters, and the more of them that die, the happier I am. Well, guys, that was Day of the Dead. Let me shut that off. Now, before I get into the review itself, because this is part of a trilogy, I think I should sort of get into the details of whether or not this movie is as good as its two prequels, which were Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead. So where exactly does this rank amongst those? Well, in terms of writing and story, I put this thing right at the bottom. This one is not quite as good as the previous two. However, in terms of special effects, this thing stands head and shoulders above Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead. But, mind you guys, again, when all is said and done, it all really does boil, down to the story. And so now let's talk about that. Let's sort of touch on the writing here. When you're making a film, and I say this a lot, you have to have likable characters, okay? Now, because this is a zombie film, I'm not asking for deep characters. I'm not asking for mountains and mountains of character depth, because I already know that most of these characters are going to be zombie chow by the time the end credits roll. So I'm not asking for characters with tons and tons of backstory and depth, but what I am asking for is at the very least, likable characters. And I can count on one hand the number of likable characters we had in this film. In fact, it's technically only two. One of them is Dr. Logan, who is an absolutely insane scientist who believes that we can train and domesticate zombies. And then there's Bub, a zombie that he is in the middle of trying to train and domesticate. So yeah, guys, out of our entire cast, we have two characters I personally thought were incredibly likable, and one of them is a fucking zombie. Do you have any idea how bad your characters have to be for a zombie to beat out everybody else in terms of likability? Well, in this film, it really isn't that hard because, well, everybody else is either a soldier, a scientist, Jamaican, or fucking Irish. And by the way, yeah, that actually is it, guys, for anything even close to character or likability is soldiers, scientists, Jamaican, or Irish. And the Irishman is constantly drunk, which is not going to offend a single person out there. Oh, shit, no. And our fucking Jamaican has an accent that sounds so fake, I just wanted him to shut the fuck up, and he never would. So really, those two could have been a little bit more likable if one of them didn't have that incredibly annoying, ultra fake sounding accent, and if the other one wasn't a horrific stereotype. I would probably have launched them right in along with our two likable characters, but I just can't because those sort of hobble them. Now, what is it now about all the other characters? Well, everyone else is a fucking douchebag, all right? Outside of our Jamaican chopper pilot and our drunken Irishman, everybody else is a douchebag, and that's the big issue. Everyone else is just this fucking unlikable, unlovable dickhead, and I couldn't wait for every single one of them to fucking die, and the fact that a few of them didn't sort of upsets me a little. In fact, I was not happy with anybody who survives to the end of the film. So, now, you do have to understand, guys, that once more, nobody here has any fucking depth because you're not asking for depth in a zombie film, but goddammit, none of them are likable, and that's the big thing. Now, beyond that, our story. Our setting, actually, before I get into story itself, the setting also kind of sort of hobbles this film a little bit. I'm going to say this, guys. When you're making a zombie film, the one thing you want is tension. You want tension because there are zombies who can come in and fuck your world up any fucking second. You don't have that when you're in a fucking underground military bunker, okay? You had it in Night of the Living Dead because it was a bunch of strangers in a fucking house and they had to fend off zombies from inside this house. And you also had it in Dawn of the Dead when you had a bunch of people who were in a fucking mall just attempting to survive the endless waves of zombies and biker gangs who happen to come into the mall. But here we have a bunch of assholes in a fucking military bunker, and the only way that the zombies are going to be able to get in is if somebody lets them in. Spoiler, somebody lets them in at the very end. So we have, for most of the film, no fucking tension about zombies coming in. None. So now all we have to deal with are these characters screaming at each other and bickering at each other and swearing and cussing up a storm. And mind you, I am also a guy who loves to swear, but a whole lot of it in here, it felt ridiculously gratuitous, and I'm not really big on that. So we had nothing here. We had nothing here that could be seen as conflict or tension, outside of the fact that our main character, Sarah, is a female scientist, and every single soldier wants to bang her in the worst way possible because she's the only woman there. Yippee, that's it. That is it for tension. Mind you, none of them actually make a fucking attempt at it, which would probably have added at least a little bit of tension, but no. Every single one of them hint at it or threaten it, but nobody actually tries to do anything about it. Yes, guys, I am saying that a rape scene might actually have improved this movie a little bit. It might have given us actual genuine tension. But we didn't have that here. No, we didn't. And you guys can probably hear that noise outside. I just noticed it myself. Somebody's out there with a snowblower, it sounds like. Don't worry about that. I'm just going to work through that. So, we have no fucking tension until the very end when somebody allows a pack of zombies to come in. And really, guys, that's all we have. We have zero tension for most of the film. Now, in terms of special effects, I have to say this. This movie the effects in this movie were done by the legendary Tom Savini. And if there would have been a movie that he worked on where the effects sucked, it would be a fucking crime against nature. But he does not fail here. This man, Savini, pulls out all the fucking stops. We get some of the best zombie gore effects ever seen in any movie ever, and you can kind of tell that we are off to an absolutely roaring start in terms of gore when the very first zombie you see is slowly, lurching towards the camera, and we get to see its tongue slowly slide out of the big gaping cavity that used to be its face. So we basically knew then that we were in for a treat. And we see everything from zombies, standing up and their guts, falling out of their, open fucking, chest cavities. And we got a lot of really cool stuff. But I do have to note one thing. Now, there is a common way of killing people in zombie films, and that is where... And that's where a horde of zombies will knock somebody over and will then proceed to rip them to pieces, which is a very easy effect to pull off. I think almost anybody can fucking do it. And it looks really cool. And I don't mind it a couple of times in any zombie film, as long as they're kind of spaced out. This movie has that very same sort of death at least 3 or 4 times within 10 minutes. And really, it almost cheapens the overall feel of the film because they couldn't come up with any other way of killing humans, outside of essentially shoving them over and then having zombies rip them to pieces. Which, again, it just feels kind of cheap at that point. You know what I mean? It just doesn't feel right. And I never thought I would mention a movie with effects done by a legend such as Tom fucking Savini and mention laziness, but that's kind of sort of what it felt like to me. Perhaps maybe because he didn't have the chance to actually spread them out, because there's no fucking zombie action or zombie tension for 3/4 of a fucking movie. Now, in terms of zombie makeup, besides that very first one you see who has the tongue that, it's just kind of sort of, like falls out of the big hole in its head, everybody else all kind of has the same kind of typical zombie makeup, where everything is kind of sort of wrinkled and their skin is all grayish or bluish. So really that is it for zombie makeup effects, but frankly it works, so I am not going to discount them on that. It's just, might have been nice if they would have tried something a little bit more with it beyond, blue skin or gray skin, wrinkles, and goofy ass teeth. So, when all is said and done, am I able to recommend Day of the Dead? Believe it or not, even with all of my complaining, I cannot say that this is a bad movie. It's just not as good as the other two entries in this series. It is still totally worth fucking watching if you're kind of curious. However, if the option is given to watch, say, this or Dawn of the Dead, go watch fucking Dawn of the Dead. That movie just basically in terms of story is just so much better. This thing here is just basically, guys, is basically like the kind of like zombie film I'd say to watch if you're kind of bored and you've watched every other zombie film you can possibly think of. The movie honestly is not bad, but it's not really great either. It's kind of average. So in terms of recommendations, I kind of have to give this one a tepid kind of. I can kind of sort of recommend it. However, I also have to warn all of those problems I have already stated. This fucking movie is not terrible, but it also is far from great. So frankly, if you want, go ahead and maybe like rent it, or if I'm not totally sure if Day of the Dead is on Netflix or not. If it is, go ahead and check it out. It honestly is not that big a deal. It honestly isn't great, but it isn't terrible. Now, because this is Anonymous Contributors Month, Day of the Dead came off of the Amazon wish list, but I don't know who sent it in, but to whoever did, thank you, because for years I have wanted to watch this, and I've never really had I have had the chance to, but I just never really bothered to, and I'm not totally sure why. And frankly now, after watching it, I am kind of happy because I got to finish watching one of the most famous trilogies in zombie film history. In fact, I think it's one of the only trilogies. Let's just be totally frank here. I think it's just this and Evil Dead is like it for trilogies. And even though it's not as good as I had hoped, it also is far. I mean, it also, guys, is not anywhere near as bad as I thought it could have been. Because frankly, this thing here could have absolutely sucked, and it didn't. It just kind of left me a little bit. That's just sort of the way I'm going to go with that. So, with that, guys, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.